Did some weeding yesterday. My soft little baby hands are all ripped apart.
Much power do you feel when you have a weed whacker? It's like,
why didn't you have a weed whacker? My hands is a mess.
I
was like just getting in there, yo.
Oh man,
no good. But I have the little string trimmer. But some of the stuff down here, man, that thing is not cutting it.
Yeah,
I'm getting serious stuff.
Dude, I don't know if I've ever had a callus, bro. I wouldn't even know what to do. Even when I used to weightlift, like I used to wear gloves, and I just get made fun of by all the beef heads.
I just have calluses in all the wrong places. What's up, Awesemo? Hope you enjoyed hearing us talk about blisters and calluses to start things off on a Friday. PeteyMac with Gundacker. We got Chris Karen producing today. 13-game slate. Some of the top pitchers of baseball on this slate, which should make it a lot of fun. And Gundacker, you got the Yankee hat this morning, and our oldest Chapman, not your friend, a night ago.
Your Yankees won the series. That's all that matters. That was
it, huh?
What a meltdown.
Lost to the Twins. That never happens.
What's even worse is my girlfriend, straight from Minnesota. She's a Twins fan. And I've been getting the couch treatment because the Yankees are winning. And then I literally told her, I said, once Chapman comes out, the game's over. You're not going to score for Chapman. No. And not only did they score, they threw a pair of bombs. And at least it was, it's Donaldson, Nelson Cruz, right? Like if you had a blind person like just casually picking 2 homers off of Chapman, it'd probably be those two. But did that sting? But I got to sleep on the bed last night. So
I was going to say, did you send her to the couch last night?
No, that's not how it works.
You're right. That is not how it works, but it's worth a shot sometimes. All right, we got 13-game slate to mess with today. And we appreciate you guys tuning in on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, get the notifications set up so you know when we're going live. And we'll hook you up with the best information out there. Remember, if you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, almost all of our Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. Even better, when you watch and then submit a 5-star review with your Twitter handle or Awesemo username included, you'll be entered to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One lucky winner awarded every Friday. So someone's getting set up today. And your reviews, they're eligible to win for up to a year. So you put it in, you got 52 chances to win. It's the best chance out there to win a free month of Awesemo Plus. You'll be competing against less people in this contest than in any other giveaway we run. So make your 5-star review count. We've got a podcast for every sport. We're available on every major platform. Head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest there. And then, of course, like and subscribe on YouTube. Keep up with our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, much, much more. And once you do subscribe, the notification button, get the alerts when we go live, and check out the promo code for new Awesemo Plus members that we have for this show. Use promo code MLB Strategy Show at checkout to get 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That's MLB Strategy Show, all caps, one word. 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus if you are a new member. So 13 games on this slate, not the full Friday. The Cubs are at home, and I guess the Rays are off today for whatever reason. So we don't have Coors Field in play. Highest over-under 10.5 in Houston. There are some weather concerns on the slate, chiefly San Francisco, Washington. But what jumps out to me, Gundacker, we got aces all over this slate.
Yeah, Friday night, several aces and no Coors, even though we kind of have a Coors total cooking. So my favorite baseball slates are the nights where we get aces and I don't have to chipping a chair, some of the less than stellar arms. Last night got a little bit weird once Max was off the table, but it looks like even if we lose a Max tonight, we should still have several solid options at the top. And because of how many games there are, that will never be void of value. So I'm kind of excited to see how lineups start looking tonight.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of the pitchers tonight, Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, Brandon Woodruff, Lucas Giolito. You have no shortage of top pitchers to go to on this night. And really, it'll be what decision you're going to make, which guy you're going to ride, or two guys if it is on DraftKings. And can you combine both of these guys maybe in some of these spots? So let's start off with Max Scherzer and the Nationals. Rain down tonight to go. They get the San Francisco Giants. This is the game on the slate that has the most weather concerns, so we're keeping an eye on it through the day. It's tough to really get a read on it at this point right now. But Max Scherzer taking on Anthony DeSclafani. How do you like this matchup for Scherzer against a Giants team that does have some strikeouts, but a lot of power as they've shown this year?
Yeah, so it's, we were all lined up to play Max yesterday. I don't love the matchup as much as like a normal matchup for Max. I do kind of think the Giants can be a little bit more pesky, and they are performing at a much higher level than expected this season. But Max Scherzer's Max Scherzer. He's a beast. Scherzer could be on like nearly 7 days rest at this point, which may not be like pitchers are creatures of habit. They may not appreciate that. And then if this game does dance and dabble with some rain a little bit more, you never quite know what the Nationals are going to do. So always watch that asterisk. But yesterday, Max was in a spot where you were playing him almost begrudgingly because he was the only guy on the slate that was really an ace other than like Trevor Rogers. So he was primed to be 50% owned. I think today he won't quite reach those levels. But Max is Max. So bet on him. I don't think he's going to be my top owned guy because I like the matchups a little bit more on like a DeGrom, Woodruff's a beast, Giolito's a softer landing spot. But I'll have Max enough. I probably see myself sitting around 20%.
One thing I noticed that's interesting, if you compare, let's just say Scherzer versus DeGrom, and I know there are other options at the top as we've talked about, but on FanDuel, Scherzer is 1,000 less than DeGrom. DeGrom's 12,000 to Scherzer's 11. But then on DraftKings, Scherzer is actually more expensive than DeGrom by 200, 11.5 versus 11.3. That's a big difference in depending on what you're playing on, who's going to be your guy.
Yeah, ownership is pretty key in Mass Century tournaments, or not even Mass Century, but Mass Field tournaments. So if you just think straight up, one guy's a better play for raw points. I wouldn't split too many hairs over 1,000 or 1,500 or less at the end of the day on a big slate. But yeah, in smaller stuff like single entry stuff, that ownership wedge could be the difference in first place and 10th place. So definitely something to watch as we get closer. I definitely think DeGrom will be higher owned on both sides when lock comes.
How about the other end of this Giants-Nationals game? And then we'll get to DeGrom. Anthony DeSclafani going up against a Washington lineup that's been pretty good over the last month once they've gotten healthy.
Yeah, so I think DeSclafani's weaknesses are stuff that we can exploit with the Nats' strength, and that's the power lefty. DeSclafani has had a 2.1 home run per night so far this season. He's had 1.8 over the last 3 seasons, and guys like Juan Soto, Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, they can take advantage of that. They already rock pretty high ISOs against righties, and then Trey Turner, great on-base guy, has a little power and a lot of speed. So 1 through 4 of our projected lineup is going to profile pretty well. I do think this lineup drops off a cliff, but really in these days in MLB, every lineup's dropping off a cliff after the 5 hole. So I'm not going to hold that against the Nats, but easily going to include these guys in the pool. I guess the pushback to that case would be is Trey Turner and Juan Soto are pushing 6K on DraftKings, and that's quite the price to pay. And there's a lot of really, really expensive hitters. Fernando Tatis, for instance, is the highest priced hitter on the slate at 6,200 going against Jacob deGrom. Like, you just feel like maybe you don't pay the highest price in the league or in the slate for a top hitter like deGrom. So I'm wondering if some of the top end salary investment goes to the Trey Turners and the Juan Sotos, because if the game plays, they have a great spot to land. But I also feel like salary, the pitch, people aren't going to cut corners at pitching tonight with the options that we have. So I also wonder if guys at nearly 6K are going to garner a ton of ownership just because a lot of salary is going into the pitcher spot. So I'm curious to see where that lands. I know on the top stack tool, we've got Washington at under 2% collective ownership. So I guess that kind of answers my question. So because of that, yeah, I got to like it if the game plays the top four, maybe get into 5 Nats and rotate them.
Yeah, I mean, on a night like this where you have so much top end pitching, does it change your strategy where maybe you stay away from, loading up with, say, 2 aces, or does that differentiate yourself enough? Just it is unique to have 4 or 5 top guys all going in the same slate.
Yeah, I personally like to prioritize pitching. That's kind of the control what you can control in DFS. And I believe pitching probably has the highest predictive value. And not that I like to quantify scoring output or try to project scoring output, but if I was, I think pitching probably has the best chance to do so. You can't really predict, these double dong days. So I will prioritize pitching. I feel like the field will as well. We've definitely had our shares of taking an SP1 and completely punting SP2 throughout the week. So for me, it's a luxury to have 2 aces. So I personally will prioritize pitching, especially on a non-cores night. We'll talk some game theory as we get to the Astros game. The Astros are rocking kind of a cores total. So maybe we'll have to balance our love for the Astros upside versus the safety at pitching. But me personally, as a rule, I'm probably going to prioritize pitching 98% of the time.
And you like Jacob deGrom over Max Scherzer tonight. deGrom going up against the San Diego Padres at Citi Field. I mean, look, people know how historically great deGrom has been over the course of this year. His ERA plus is sitting at 623. I mean, if you have a 150 ERA plus, you're really, really good. And he's at 623. The only thing that's really limiting deGrom is the pitch count. Only 85 pitches last time out. He said that was his decision, didn't want to go back out for the 8th inning. But the Mets have been very conservative with him since he's come back from the injured list. But then, all right, so he only threw 85 pitches last time, and he still only almost put up 40 points on DraftKings. So to some degree, it doesn't matter. How about this matchup against San Diego?
Yeah, I believe this is a curtain call game for him. He faced San Diego that last outing. Normally, that's not something I think is great to see the same team back to back, but Jacob deGrom is an anomaly. He's the greatest pitcher in the world right now, and I'm not gonna not play Jacob deGrom. Give him some home cooking here. Padres, certainly a team that has some respectable bats. I got 4 guys that could have a sub 20% K rate. But there's really no pushback on Jacob deGrom. He's on a whole different planet when it comes to pitching. So I'll play him. I'll expect around 30 DKP as a median range of outcomes, and I'll just take that 30. And if 6.2K Fernando Tatis is the slate breaker, then I'm on to Saturday.
And the odds would be in your favor. That won't be the case with the way that deGrom has been going, and just in his career, he's been so consistent. He so rarely blows up or has given up multi-homer games to an opponent, even someone like a Fernando Tatis Jr. So you got to love deGrom in this matchup against San Diego. On the other end of it, Blake Snell goes for the Padres. He's been a stay away for much of this year, hasn't pitched well, but last time out against the Mets had a no-hit bid into the 7th inning. I think it ended up 7 innings, no runs, 1 hit. How encouraging is that for you that Snell finally went deep in a game and pitched well in a game?
Yeah. Was it me and you that were kind of tongue-in-cheek in this one? I feel like in the last week, I kind of laughed at Snell's ownership and then like a Greinke day, and both those guys went deep and put a big game. So Blake Snell's, we've known he can do this. And that's the thing. It's not like we think Blake Snell's a bad pitcher. We just had longevity concerns in terms of single game output. He went over 100 pitches for the first time, I think, all year in that outing. He was just on one. You got to wonder if he wasn't throwing a no-hitter, does he, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes. Is he not yanked? If he had given up 3 hits, 5 hits, would they have, pulled him in the fifth, sixth like they usually had been doing? So I do wonder how much of a factor the no was in his appearance there in terms of staying out there longer than usual. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. I think because of the options at the top end at pitching today, he wouldn't be a priority for me. I definitely wouldn't have none. I'd probably stash him as a 10%er for now, see what happens. But for me, the priority is definitely going to be in DeGrom. So maybe get to a little Snell, but I'm not going to, I don't want to overreact to a 1 game sample size where I can maybe point to a no as the reason that he had a longer leash than usual.
I haven't dug in, but when I just ran my initial lineups with Awesemo's projections, I ended up with a ton of Charlie Morton. I was like, Charlie Morton on a night where you have Max Scherzer or Jacob deGrom. So I'll have to look at that a little later before I start finalizing anything. But he gets the Miami Marlins tonight in Miami, always a friendly place to pitch. Morton's been hot of late, 15 plus points over the last 4 starts. Why do you think he's popping up to that degree?
So outside of yesterday, the Marlins are definitely a team that's below league average, just about every category. They'll have the benefit of a pitcher-friendly Marlins park. More than likely, we'll have the roof closed. He's 7,500, kind of that solid SB2 area where if he drops you 20 plus fantasy points as an SB2, that dog's going to hunt. It's going to save you a little bit of salary to go get some of those maybe Astro bats. I don't know if that was
well, that's what happened with mine. I got 86% 5-man stacks in the Astros. So I got to go through and do some things. But that's why if you're not going to go DeGrom, Scherzer, you want to go to the Astros here, maybe Morton is someone you can save a couple of bucks and go to. That's what happened with my projections. I look at it.
Yeah, and Morton, his ERA is higher than his Sierra and expected ERA. So definitely some room for some progression, some positive regression. And the Marlins are a team to pick on. So I don't think that's a crazy spot to land at SB2. I'll definitely be a buyer in that. And at 7,500, we could probably safely project him as a guy that's probably going to get us 2x his salary with ability to build off of that. He had 1 game against Miami earlier this season, just landed at 15 DKP, but he did go 6 innings, ended up giving up 5. So he didn't get the quality start on FanDuel, but encouraging, he did get 9 strikeouts. So strikeouts are definitely potentially there. And we know his ground ball rate is going to be pretty high. So I'm fine with having Morton. I don't know. It's an interesting concept to project him at that high own. I guess it really is going to depend on your love or lack thereof for the Astros upside. Right now, we're looking at the top stacks tool at Awesemo, and they're at 16%, and that's about right. Like the ownership versus the top stack percentage versus what their run total is. I would probably be inclined to believe that the ownership number is going to rise throughout the day as more and more hype maybe goes on their total and people kind of realize what's happened with Twins pitching the last couple of days. So I think if that run total goes up, maybe that ownership could touch 20%, and then you got to think about the Friday night range of outcomes. But I think right now, from where I'm sitting, if the ownership on the Astros was sitting at 16% at lock, I'd probably try and get maybe 10% leverage on that. And then that would probably, by default, get me a little bit more Morton than I probably would have expected to start the day.
Yeah, you're going to have to find some value in those other spots. And Charlie Morton, I'll give this away on the pitchers tool on Awesemo.com, is right now ranked to be top 2 as far as value is concerned at the pitching spot tonight. So, look, you want to save some bucks somewhere, he might be a way to go. Sandy Alcantara is going for Miami against this tough Braves lineup. Alcantara was terrific his last time out, giving up only an unearned run in 8 innings at Pittsburgh, but much different matchup going from the Pirates to the Braves.
Yeah, Braves are sluggers, man. They're one of the league leaders in homers. Definitely not a warm and fuzzy spot, and 9K is kind of uncomfortable. I think if Alcantara kind of had that Morton price tag at 7,500. I'd feel a little bit more inclined to take some shots here. If we get a surprise Braves lineup that has just 2 lefties right now, I'm looking at 3. Maybe if it's just Freeman and Albies, I guess that top 3 is going to be rough to get around. But Alcantara so far has been kind of an extreme splits guy, dominating righties and really struggling against left-handed hitters. So if you catch him in the right spots against lineups that are going to be more righty heavy than not, and maybe the park and his ground ball rate can erase a lefty single with a double play or something like that. I wouldn't want, like, if he was just a little bit cheaper, he would definitely be somebody I would lean on as like a tournament guy that I think, sub 10%, I'd still have enough equity versus the field that I think he's worthwhile. But 9K, it is kind of making the decision a little bit rougher. But I don't think people are crazy to look at Alcantara, but the 9K price tag is my biggest concern.
Again, especially tonight when we're all trying to spend up for at least one of these aces that are on the board. Another potential value guy, pitching wise, the Orioles' Keegan Aiken. This is a guy who moved from the bullpen into the rotation. Paid off for you last time. 5 scoreless, 4 strikeouts against Cleveland. Threw 86 pitches in that game, so he's relatively stretched out, and Tampa Bay is playing tonight. Gets a matchup where they seem to be boom or bust to pitch against because there are strikeouts in that lineup, but they could also put a lot of runs up on you, which they've done quite a few times this year.
Yeah, Keegan Aiken's probably not going to make the cut for me. 5K is fun, but like I said, you're just putting makeup on at that point, getting a little too cute on a Friday night with some of the pitching options we have on the slate. So I probably don't get to Keegan Aiken. And I probably don't get to Yarbrough. I don't know if you want to transition to that, but the Orioles, it might be stunning. Like, if you have been watching casually, like, I think it's easy to by the perception that the Orioles are just really, really bad overall. And I guess there's some credence to that, but against left-handed pitching, they're a problem. If you sort the major leagues team-wise in WRC plus, Baltimore is number 2 in all of baseball, in between number 1 Houston and number 3 the White Sox. So you expect Houston and the White Sox, but you don't necessarily think about the Orioles as a team that is good against anything, but they're number 2 as a team against lefties. So it's a tough matchup for Ryan Yarbrough. And for that reason, I'm probably, Shark Tank, and I'm out to on Yarbrough. And I might be in on some Orioles. The resistance there is the Tropicana field is not Camden Yards. So maybe it does suppress some of their upside and offense against lefties, but this has definitely been a team that is a problem against left-handed pitching. And if I can get the number 2 team in WRC plus against lefties at a decent ownership, right now we have them at under 2%. There's definitely going to be some equity in putting 5% on that in my personal lineup. So no pitching in this game for me, and I'm a little bit curious with the O side.
Yeah, I think you're getting a lot of Tampa Bay bullpen if you're going with the Orioles today. Yarbrough threw a complete game. His last time out went 113 pitches, and we know how the Rays handle their pitching. They're very conservative. So I got to think if they pushed him that far last time around, he might be limited to 90 pitches, and even if he's pitching well, might be done after, say, 6 innings. And the other thing I'll warn you about Yarbrough, if anyone's considering playing him, even with the complete game last week, still 31 DraftKings points, which, look, you'd obviously take that, but if that's his ceiling, that's not exactly what you're looking for on a night when you have 26 pitchers to choose from like tonight. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. It's just $29.95, and this will give you full access to the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, the premium Slack channel, lineup builder, and much more. And if you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can take advantage of the promo code we have for this show, which is MLB Strategy Show, all caps, one word. That's MLB Strategy Show for 15% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And of course, if you're only looking to play MLB DFS, you can sign up for our Awesemo Plus MLB weekly package for just $15.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. And if you want to sample some of what we have on the site, free today, MLB main slate ownership, which you could check out, NBA main slate ownership percentage, and MMA fighter rankings as well. That's all free today at Awesemo.com. But sign up, 50% off your first time subscriber. Use promo code MLB Strategy Show. Chicago White Sox, Detroit Tigers. Tariq Skubal, I mean, kind of a no-name guy coming in, but 11 strikeouts his last time out, at least 8 strikeouts in his last 4 starts. Does he start to put himself in the mix as a second starting pitcher, I would think, tonight on DK?
Man. So Skubal's definitely looking a little bit more like the Skubal that they expected when they called him up. This is kind of what he was doing in the minors. He joins a unique group of lefties that have done pretty solid against the White Sox. Yesterday, I mentioned how Robbie Ray and Jordan Montgomery have also surprised us with some big games against the White Sox. And looking at Skubal's 11 strikeout night, a little bit of a head scratcher, because we just talked about how the Orioles were number 2 in WRC plus against lefties. Well, the White Sox are number 3, and there's lineage to that. You go back to last season, this was a team that just smacked lefties, and this is a lineup that hits lefties at an incredible average with a lot of power. And Skubal, prior to the recent strikeout surge, has really struggled with power, over a 2.5 home run per 9 since the beginning of the last season. So seems like we might walk the plank here, but I think, unlike DeGrom, same matchup, back-to-back starts, I'm going to lean the bat side here and probably land on a lot of White Sox stacks. They have an implied run total knocking on the door of 5. And I definitely think there's plenty of upside in these bets. So I'm going to be on the White Sox stack and probably wait and see Skubal. But I will say and concede that if somebody's out there wanting to keep taking, on the hot streak that Skubal's on with his strikeouts at 6,900, I don't think you're crazy. I just don't think that's going to be a play for me.
Yeah, and look, the White Sox will be without Nick Madrigal perhaps for the rest of the season now. A right-handed bat for them who's, I think, overperformed up to this point in the season. And then, you also look at Skubal going up against a White Sox team that, remember Robbie Ray had a big performance this week from the left-hand side against the White Sox. So a couple things you could try to look for if you want to find a reason to get to Skubal tonight, 6,900 on DK. And then Lucas Giolito, one of these top pitchers going for the Chicago White Sox. That ERA has really come down because so much of it is from that one start at Fenway Park on Patriots Day at 11 in the morning where he didn't make it out of the first inning. 20-plus points on DK each of his last 4 starts. And as we know, the Detroit Tigers are always one of those teams you want to target. With this matchup, does Giolito put himself in the mix around a Scherzer or DeGrom as someone else to get to?
Yeah, Giolito could. He's holding an average of 30% K rate on the season, and that's in line with what he did the last couple of seasons. So against an anemic Tigers offense is certainly very viable to have him knocking on the door and be in the conversation of a top 3, top 4 scoring pitcher. One of my favorite tools at Awesemo is the top pitchers tool, and kind of calculates, or projects the percentage of chance that the pitcher has to be a top 2 scorer. And Giolito has 17% chance to be a top 2 optimal pitcher, which is top 4. So that's in line with, kind of my obscure number that I just threw out there. So absolutely would be an investor in Giolito. Tigers are a porous team that offers a lot of strikeout potential. So yeah, count me in.
And I think it'll be important to watch the ownership, how it all settle for DeGrom, Scherzer, Kershaw, Giolito, Woodruff over the course of the day. And maybe Giolito ends up being a guy who gets left behind, and, there is some leverage to grab there. So White Sox, Tigers going at it. We'll get to the Rockies and the Reds. Kyle Freeland facing Tyler Mahle. These are supposed to be these teams' aces, and Freeland's been banged up, coming back, maxed out at his 84 pitches so far this year. Let's just grab this game as a group. Are you stacking Reds? What do you make of this matchup? As the Rockies' terrible offense away from Coors Field too. So I guess Mally's got to be at least a little intriguing tonight.
Yeah, he definitely is intriguing. Like Rockies are a team to pick on, but when the Reds are on a slate at home, I like to just stack the ballpark sometimes. This has been the number one ballpark in baseball for home runs. And I just think it gives us some cheapies, and at mid 80 degrees looks like it could be humid. There's some rain concerns, so keep an eye on that, especially if you do want to play Tyler Mahle. But yeah, I definitely will be invested in the red side of things for sure. I think they're, other than Jesse Winker, they're kind of affordable on both sites. And Winker's just a cherry on the top. But if you wanted to stay away from his platoon splits, he definitely has some severe ones, but the Rockies bullpen is really, really bad. And the Rockies bullpen is one of the reasons why I was on the Marlins yesterday. Chichi Gonzalez, followed by, one of the worst bullpens in baseball, created an opportunity for the Marlins to put up runs, and they did. So you put that bad of a bullpen with a below average starter in a top hitter's park. I definitely think great things can happen. Reds are at a run total of about 5.5 right now, and that has potential to go up. So I'll be all about some Reds today. If the weather, if we ended up with no weather concerns, I could easily justify playing Tyler Mahle. I think he's pretty cheap on both sides, and the Rockies are still present a high strikeout opportunity. I got just two guys in this projected Rockies lineup. They have a K percentage under 24%, so there's absolutely a high ceiling potential for Mahle. So I would have some of that, but I would also probably have a couple of Rocky shares in my back pocket to take advantage of the ballpark if need be, because Mahle is not immune to the power ball to the righty. So maybe Trevor Story, who just returned to the lineup, gets back on track.
And going back to Cincinnati's offense, I mean, you figure you're getting into this Rockies bullpen tonight with Freeland. As I mentioned, he's maxed out at 84 pitches. He hasn't been pitching deep into games since he's come back. So, you're going to get some opportunities, probably Freeland maxing out at 6 innings. And then you take your shots against that Rockies pen, even if Freeland is able to pitch well on a night like this. Seattle, Cleveland, Justin Dunn, Aaron Savali, the pitching matchup there. Savali has struggled a bit more of late, despite the 8-2 record. He's given up 4 runs in 6 innings in each of his past 2 times out there. Seattle, again, one of those offenses you like to target, but I wouldn't think you're getting Savali a whole lot tonight.
Yeah, probably not. 8,400. I think we mentioned Charlie Morton, Tyler Mahle, guys at that area that probably are a little bit more viable, but the Mariners are the Mariners. So sometimes the matchup is the matchup. If you have to pivot, sure, go for it. But Savali's strikeout potential is really not what you would want. His overall K percentage, I think, at 18%. He's striking out lefties this season at under 20%, righties at 17%. So it's not like him as a pitcher inherently has that swing and miss stuff, a sub 10% swing and strike rate, but the matchup could slip up a couple extra strikeouts than normal, and maybe he has a solid game, but he's definitely not on the short list or knocking at the door for me. And then Justin Dunn, to kind of touch on him real quick, his ERA is severely outperforming his advanced metrics. He's got a 5.07 Sierra so far with a 3.18 ERA. Whip is fine, but it does look like he's a little bit more on the lucky side than not. And the Indians are another one of those anemic type offenses where people like to take a shot on them because of their lackluster offense, and maybe that might be a little bit of a trap, considering that we can easily project them for some regression here. So I'm probably going to be out on pitchers. With that said, we didn't wake up today to stack the Seattle Mariners on a Friday night, so it might be a X out game for me, and I hope it doesn't throw up a 14-10 total, but I just can't see myself justifying 5,800 for Jose Ramirez, considering some of the other totals and considering the pitching that I want to prioritize today. So this might be a game that I don't really get to.
Yeah, and there's always a few, especially on a 13-game slate. The over-under is 9 for this game, relatively high for Cleveland with, again, you just look at the ERA, someone like Justin Dunn at 3.18, but as you mentioned, hasn't exactly pitched to that level over the course of this season. Let's talk about our sponsor, PrizePicks, who is offering the simplest fantasy game on the market. You don't have to worry about sharks, lineup optimizers, mass multi-entry. You simply pick 2, 3, 4, 5 players, whatever you want, and you pick over/under on their projected score. And if you correctly select, say, a 5-player lineup, that can net you 10 times your entry fee. From the NFL, NBA, esports, baseball, you name it, PrizePicks has it. And you can download the mobile app in the App Store or on Google Play today and make your first deposit to receive an instant deposit match of up to $100 when you use promo code Awesemo. So simplify daily fantasy with PrizePicks today. Just looking at some player props. I saw Lucas Giolito over under 7.5 strikeouts. We talked about his matchup with the Tigers. I mean, I would feel pretty comfortable going over on that on a night like tonight.
Yeah, my I in the last couple of days I wrote a new strikeout model, and if Giolito gets to 100 pitches in my model, he'll be sitting on right about 9.5 strikeouts. So I'm in on that. I could bet the over and give him the Tigers the weight the Tigers strikeout potential a little bit higher.
How about a home run prop we can throw out there? I just grabbed one at random. Brandon Crawford, I mean, the slugger of the year at shortstop apparently. And we know it's not an easy matchup against Max Scherzer, but Scherzer does give up some bombs. Is there a good bomb rating? Maybe someone else that you have on your board that you like tonight to go deep and hit on one of those?
Yeah, the top guy in my bomb detector is Andrew Vaughn of the White Sox. I don't know if a prop book will have Andrew Vaughn listed, but he's
take a look
up there for me.
Well, it's good to know too for those of you playing DFS with the White Sox matched up against Scoopel, as we talked about a little bit earlier. Let's go to the Blue Jays and Red Sox. This is at Fenway Park, over under 9.5 runs. Not the highest on the board, but it's up there. We'll get to the highest next to those Houston Astros. But Ross Stripling, the numbers are underwhelming this year, but he seems to have figured something out. He came out of the bullpen, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, pitched well, and he's carried that into his starts. So over his last 3 starts, 17 innings, 2 runs, and 14 strikeouts. So he is racking up some Ks there and has made himself, if not playable on a night like tonight, at least one where maybe you're not jumping in on the Boston Red Sox, full cannonball into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, 6,500. There's a world where you kind of vet $600 to $7,500 pitchers just to see if they're viable to fill out a big time Astros stack like a DeGrom or something like that. So I think you're crazy to be down there shopping around, but overall, it's really not a comfort spot. Red Sox offense is pretty solid. Put them in Fenway. They're just a dangerous team. So I probably eliminate myself from the Stripling conversation and hope that, 20 is kind of the ceiling, which in a vacuum, you take 20 if you're just looking for a number value like 3x, but 20 may not mean a whole lot at the end of the night when more than likely on a Friday night, your 2 pitchers are going to need 30 to win a tournament. So I probably don't get to Stripling and, to push to run that back. Garrett Richards not somebody that's giving me the warm and fuzzies either. I definitely think, just like yesterday, Fenway strikes me more as a offensive showcase today. And this is a game that actually has some real life utility to it too. Is the AL East pretty wide open, and the Blue Jays looking to make up some ground here, and they can gain some ground with a couple wins here in Fenway. So you might see some inspired plate appearances from the Blue Jays. So I'll definitely be more focused on the bats in this one.
And Toronto does have I'll mention a good leverage score, the best leverage score of the night to this point. If you look at the top stacks tool over there on Awesemo, and those are the pieces of information that could really help you out, especially when you have so much information, so much to look at on a night like tonight with 26 teams in play and 13 games on this slate. One of the key ones is we've talked about. Do you go with DeGrom, Scherzer, the aces, or are you spending up for these Houston Astros bats who have a tremendous matchup against Matt Shoemaker and the Minnesota Twins? Gundacker won't have to sleep on the couch anymore because that series is finally over. But what is to like? Let's just start with that. Houston against this matchup, Shoemaker, and ERA over 7 right now.
Yeah, just about everything. You almost get the sense that the Twins are even though the season's, still really, really young, it's just watching them, it feels like they're not playing as a win this year team. So I watched them put the kid Jackson the game 2 days in a row. I watched them leave Randy Dobnik out there to die. And then yesterday they kind of left their starter in a little long. So it just seems like they're kind of coasting. So if they're going to coast and try to develop some players that are going to have some growing pains, you could definitely sell me on this Astros stack. Matt Shoemaker certainly just doesn't have it this year. He has been getting just beat down, a near 2 home run per 9 to both sides of the plate, 300 average, 300 plus average to lefties, 260 to righties. The xFIP is through the roof. And then once you hand the ball over from Shoemaker to the bullpen's been pretty lackluster as well. So a lot to love from an Astros team that is a low K team with a lot of hit for average and hit for power potential. And the 6-run total that I'm looking at, I mean, we're talking cores, right? Like we're by closing time, when the bell when the bell rings for this match to start, we might have a 6.5 total if public money kind of moves this line a little bit. So nothing to not like about Astros. No. The pushback at the end of the day is just going to be a matter of leverage and mathematics, right? The Astros are a team right now that we have on the top stack tool as easily the highest owned stack, 16%. But like I said, I do think there's some room for that number to keep rising. I don't think it's crazy to see it get to 20%. And then you start asking yourself, do I want, if I'm running 100 lineups, do I want to match the field and dedicate 20 of my 20 lineups of equity into that and feel like matching the field does much? Because I don't think it will at that point. I want some leverage. So I probably want to be over. And then you're just wondering on a Friday night, there's not a zero-sum range of outcome, obviously, for some other team, like you mentioned, the Blue Jays, that has single-digit ownership to kind of get there. So the matchup's pristine. The only thing that's going to push back by closing time for me is going to be the ownership and whether or not I want to play the leverage game and take my chances.
That might be the biggest thing to look at tonight, and it affects the pitching as well. And I do wonder if, we're going to see the ownership pop for Houston just because so many people are going to want to get to these top pitchers that aren't cheap on a night like tonight. So we'll see as the day goes on, keeping an eye on those projection numbers and ownership projections and how it's all going to shake out as time goes along. On the other side here, the Minnesota Twins, a capable offense in Minnesota tonight. They go up against Jose Urquidy. Is there anything to play on that end of this ball game?
Yeah, so the Twins are number 2 right now in our ownership projections, which I think is something I probably wouldn't be on. The Twins kind of got there late as a stack yesterday with the Donaldson and Nelson Cruz aforementioned 9th inning homers, a little bit unlikely, but we have them just with the 5% of being a top stack with over 2x the ownership. So a great spot to give back leverage if you want to take some extra leverage for the Astros and let the field have the leftovers of the Twins here. I don't mind trading that 5% or even really just giving back the 10%. The Astros bullpen is fine. Not elite, but not bad. Maybe they walk more than you would want them to. And up until the 9th inning yesterday, the Twins offense has just been like Jorge Polanco. So maybe that's where I get different, is not to be as invested in the Twins as the field and just trade that ownership to make it extra Astros ownership. But with that said, I probably ain't playing Jose Urquidy today.
No, and probably not getting to the Pirates offense either. A real tough matchup against Brandon Woodruff and the Milwaukee Brewers. And Woodruff may not have the name value of Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom, Lucas Giolito, but is the best FIP in the league right now. I mean, really, if it wasn't for deGrom, Woodruff, we'd be talking about him as one of, if not the best pitcher in the National League so far this year. At least 16 points in each of his last 11 starts. So he's been consistent. He gives you a high ceiling with strikeout numbers as well. And you can't ask for a much better matchup than this against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Now, first of all, man, the Brewers with Woodruff, Corbin Burns, and Freddie Peralta.
And the bullpen, it's crazy what they have going on pitching-wise.
Yeah. So, I'm with you on Woodruff. The Pirates lineup is looking a little bit more split platoon-wise. for good stretches. This was a lefty dominant lineup, but it's going to be balanced out a little bit more. Key Brian Hayes back in the mix. Kevin Newman, Phillip Evans, guys like that. So I think it's a even chance to build off of this 30+% K rate for Woodruff. Easily going to be one of my favorite options. I feel like if you like looked at deGrom's upside and kind of weighed deGrom's potential pitch count versus the matchup, like that matchup rating, like strength of matchup is probably in Woodruff's favor. And this projected Pirates lineup does have some strikeout potential. Normally they're a little bit scrappy without power, but this lineup is all sitting at about 20+% signs of like a Adam Frazier and Kevin Newman. So mentioned the top pitcher tool. I think Brandon Woodruff easily could be a top 2 scorer on the slate, and he could be a top 1 scorer. So we'll be hanging my hat on him. We discussed a few price discrepancies between FanDuel and DraftKings today. I think one to mention is there's a big difference between Woodruff on FanDuel and DraftKings. It's $1,400. So we might see that impact his ownership, 5 to 10% on either site, especially on the sites where you just choose one. And there's a good chance he's lower owned than he probably should be on FanDuel, because you can get a little bit of savings elsewhere. So maybe I might like that as a potential leverage spot on FanDuel, where there's usually a lot of egregious value. I mentioned Andrew Vaughn as a guy that's popping in my home run model. He's almost min price on FanDuel, so I can kind of offset that. So a lot of Woodruff love, no Chase DeYoung interest for me. And the Brewers at home, looks like they could pop the roof open here. I don't mind getting into some of these bats here, with Christian Yelich looking a little bit better on FanDuel than DK for me right now, but I'm fine with getting some Brewer stacks in the mix.
And just quickly on Woodruff, of all those, the 5 aces that we'll be talking about today, and we've gotten to most of them now, Woodruff is the lowest owned, or projected to be the lowest owned as of now. And that's true on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and much more true on FanDuel. So, you can not only like him, you can also like the fact that, maybe whether it's that name value or whatever else it might be, he's one of the guys with one of the better matchups, maybe only Giolito with a better matchup than Woodruff. And he's in a spot where there aren't going to be too many slates where Woodruff is only 20% or so owned. So you get an opportunity to make a jump there. And hey, maybe you hit and end up in the Awesemo Hall of Fame. We had some winners last night. The Colts took down the MLB 100K bat flip and just beat out our own Alex Awesemo Baker as well. We've had basketball winners. And if you want to be a part of the Awesemo Hall of Fame, and there are some perks to it, download the Awesemo avatar from awesemo.com/avatar. You're placing the top 3 of a contest. That's always good, with over 5,000 contestants. So you're making big money there. And then tweet that win. Tell us all about it at Awesemo HOF. And you win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So then you get back into the Hall of Fame at some point. So definitely check that out. Again, awesemo.com/avatar. And we're all pulling for you here. Everybody's pulling for each other. If you join Awesemo Plus, you're joining a community. And the tools, the projections, they're all fine and great. But you also gain access to our premium Slack channel, where you can talk strategy and get into other topics with fellow DFS players, participate in office hours with our Awesemo experts, and stay up to date on the latest updates to projections from Alex Awesemo Baker himself. Great feature for our subscribers, and added perk to any Awesemo Plus package. And again, running the special, use promo code MLB Strategy Show if you are a first-time subscriber to Awesemo, and you save yourself 15%. 3 games to go on this 13-game slate, Gundacker. And Shohei Ohtani, always fun to talk about. Doesn't seem to be garnering a whole lot of interest far on the night. There's always a bit of upside, a high of 31 points, at least on DK, his last time out. He's been, at least in double digits in all of his starts for all the issues that they had with control early on in the season. And, Arizona, not exactly the scariest lineup in the world to go against.
Yeah, obviously when Ohtani is on the slate, it's annoying because it does just kind of eliminate the Angels as a stack. Ohtani 8-1 on DraftKings. If you could settle on a ballpark of 20 DKP, Definitely not out of the question. What I would probably be worried about with Ohtani today is his xFIP to lefties, probably a little bit higher than I want it. Is the D-backs lineup probably going to be more lefties than righties, so a little bit of cause for concern there. Walk rates up against lefties, the power potentials up against lefties, but I don't like I don't I'm not running from the D-back. So at 8,100, I'd probably have like a safe amount, maybe cap them at 10%, 15%, and, hope for that 20 plus performance. So I'd be fine with that. Merrill Kelly pushing it back here, 7K on DraftKings with the Sierra and XFIP over 4. He's actually had an ERA higher than that. So maybe some positive regression come from him, but in terms of projecting strikeouts and stuff, just a 21% K rate and a 9% swing and strike rate. So it's just not an elite spot. But there are some strikeouts in this Angels lineup without Mike Trout. A lot of guys at 25+%. So stranger things have happened than 7K Merrill Kelly becoming a top play. Matter of fact, I think we've seen that even a few times this season. He dropped 30 against the Dodgers on the 20th. So not a common range of outcome, but perhaps a range of outcome because of the watered down Angels lineup. And then another thing to watch with this spot is the Angels going into Chase Field. They're going to lose the DH. So if they opt to not use Ohtani, or if they take him out of the lineup after he's done pitching, maybe the stack itself gets a little bit of a drop off, and maybe that might be something bettors can use for some late value on money lines or something.
Have we seen this yet? Have we seen Ohtani pitch in a National League park? Because Ohtani, look, you want to hit him third, but you don't necessarily want your pitcher's spot to be third, especially if you're only expecting to get, say, 6 innings out of Ohtani. So, if you're looking at this Angels stack, not only might you not have Ohtani in the mix, but he could also end up hitting 9th in this game. I don't know how Joe Maddon's going to handle that tonight.
I do think they've had some NL games, and I think he'll bat second or third. Okay. But when he comes out, do they double switch him to the outfield is kind of what I want to see Joe Maddon do. So we'll keep an eye on that. But like I said, this lineup's already pretty bad without Trout. And if you take out Ohtani for half the game, it could be horrendous.
And they are expected to have the dome closed to Chase Field, which is a little point to pitchers, even if it is still more of a hitter's ballpark than anything else. Royals Athletics, Brady Singer always seems to be in the mix as one of those potential value guys. And Cole Irvin going for Oakland, and he's had a surprisingly good season so far.
Yeah, Irvin looks like he might be overperforming a little bit versus the Sierra and expected ERA, and the K percentage and swing strike rate isn't elite by any stretch either. But at 6,600, if you're looking for someone to kind of really give you the DeGrom and all of the Astros, not just some of the Astros, maybe somebody you look at. I'm probably going to be out on him. The extra just a little too high for comfort. The Royals team, I don't mind this team against below average lefties. I really don't mind this team in general, because I do think they're like a Swiss Army knife in terms of power, stolen base potential, stuff like that. A good base running rating as a overall team. Whit Merrifield with the 3.7 base running rating before yesterday. So I don't mind that. Salvador Perez has been crushing it. I don't mind the OBP of Santana. I think Soler got him a late homer yesterday. So I actually don't hate the idea of cherry picking Royals, and maybe I'll have a stack or two. I'm not going to be too aggressive there. But I don't see myself getting too much Cole Irving, and then Brady Singer to run that back. Elevated whip. There's some room for regression on his ERA versus his Sierra, and his expected ERA is just 3.51. So some really, really big room to jump down a little bit. But the extra to lefty is a little higher than you want. It's sitting at about 5 right now. So probably not a risk reward that's going to be something I want to dabble with on a Friday night where I have all these aces. So I'm just going to hope this part kind of suppresses a lot of the juice. And I'd be more of a cherry picker here, looking for some bombs. Brady Singer will allow over a 1 home run per night to lefties. So Matt Olson is definitely a chip and a chair guy for some power. If you want to throw that in there, I don't think he's going to garner a ton of ownership at 5.4K, considering the alternatives at that price point. So, maybe he's a late night hammer.
And the last ace to get to, Clayton Kershaw going up against the Texas Rangers. I think we should still call it Clayton Kershaw an ace, right? He gets kind of an honorary title on that, and does have some good projections tonight. Expected to be up there with the big boys. It's not a bad matchup against Texas either, especially being at Dodger Stadium. Fairly low over/under at just 7.5 runs, and that's with Mike Foltynewicz going on the other side. So, how much do you like Kershaw relative to deGrom, Scherzer, Giolito, Woodruff on this night?
Yeah, so another spot where an AL team goes into an NL park, lose that DH, and Foltynewicz has to pick up a bat, and you would probably just imply that he's going to have a strikeout rate of like 40% against a guy like Kershaw. So if you're doing some strikeout projections, maybe factor that in as another bonus for Kershaw. I definitely like Kershaw quite a bit. At 9.8K, I don't think he's like my favorite option if we're looking at the high-end guys, but he's certainly it seems like a lower range of outcomes for him to give you the negatives. Definitely some menacing bats on the Rangers lineup. Adolis Garcia is a problem, especially against lefties. Gallo can still hit for some power. Nick Solak and Isaiah Kiner for lefter. Charlie Culberson all have decently high averages against lefties. So there might be some spoilers in this lineup that maybe ruin Kershaw's ceiling, but I'm not going to let that get me from having a decent chunk of Kershaw. I still think half this lineup will strike out nearly 30% against them, and then we add that pitcher spot. So like I said, I do think on tonight's slate at the end of the night, I would probably expect both pitchers on DraftKings to kind of need to knock on the door 30 DKP, just the way it'll fall out, because I think, there's going to be plenty of mid-tier and value bats that kind of donk their way into big nights. So it's just going to pay off the high-end pitching. And I think Kershaw does have the potential to be a high scorer, but a little less than some of the other guys. So I probably sit around 15% right now.
How about the Dodgers stack? Because I always find this team interesting because you don't necessarily have to pay up for the top of the lineup. You can get production for a much less price from the bottom of this lineup as well, with guys like Chris Taylor and AJ Pollock and Gavin Lux. They haven't been all that high priced of late. And, if this team goes off, you're getting multiple at-bats even at the bottom end of the lineup.
Yeah, so the Dodgers kind of limped through a nice portion of the season. A lot of no Bellinger, still without Seager. But this lineup's looking a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more like the potential World Series champions. My only reservation is Roberts could be a little bit platoony and start subbing guys out halfway through. But at the end of the night, looks like 70-degree plus temperatures in LA. The Rangers pitching staff definitely below average. Folty's not great. We know Folty definitely struggles with power, especially the lefty. So a guy like Bellinger is going to project pretty well. Max Muncy, and I'd be a buyer. Yeah, Dodgers have a run total center around 5+. By the way, the Rangers under 3 to kind of pad Kershaw on the back here in terms of whether or not he's an ace. They're Vegas respecting him like an ace. But yeah, I'm in on the Dodgers. But like I said, you might worry about a couple of the Taylors and Luxes of the world maybe getting subbed out. But I'm not going to overthink it. I definitely think the Dodgers could be a team that could drop 10+ tonight.
Well, let's just run it back. A 13-game slate. There are some weather concerns in Washington against the Giants. That'll be something to keep an eye on here. And then there's just aces all over the place. Who do you think, as of now, is going to be your number one owned pitcher tonight?
Probably Woodruff. Maybe deGrom just because he's a freak, but Woodruff on DK. But yeah.
Any day where deGrom isn't your number one owned pitcher and he's available, feels like you're doing something wrong, something dirty. But, sometimes you got to take that chance. And tonight would be one of those nights, considering you have Scherzer and Kershaw and Giolito with a good matchup against the Tigers and Woodruff going up against Pittsburgh. So a lot of options pitching wise on this slate. Keep up with the latest happening across Major League Baseball, and the lineups start coming out. If there are any late scratches, at Awesemo MLB. And of course, if you enjoyed the show, if it was helpful for you, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with our shows here at Awesemo. We have DFS offers, giveaways, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button, find out when we're going live and what's happening here. And it's not just baseball talk. We will have the MLB Deeper Dive coming up at 3 Eastern. More lineups coming out, more information as to what's going to be happening, what some of the limitations might be for some pitchers on a given night. So again, 3 Eastern, the MLB Deeper Dive. and then the tip-off coming up at 4:30 Eastern Time. Our thanks to our sponsor, PrizePicks. For Gundacker or producer Chris, I'm PeteyMac. Happy stacking.